Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, lesson 17. This lesson is a little lengthy, so I would like everyone to pay attention to it. This lesson teaches us four things. First, when a sakin letter joins with another letter, it gives a different sound. Secondly, it teaches us how to blend a full mouth letter into an empty mouth letter. Or the other way around, how to blend an empty mouth letter into a full mouth letter. Thirdly, it teaches us more in depth about the qalqala letters, that is, to show the difference between those letters which to bounce and those letters which that we're not supposed to bounce. And fourthly, it gives an introduction on the rules of raw, meaning that when a raw has a zabr or pesh, are we supposed to pronounce it with a full mouth or an empty mouth? When the raw has a sakin, so how do we know we're supposed to pronounce that with a full mouth or an empty mouth? So he gives an introduction on the rules of raw. So let's start with the lesson. Before we start with the lesson, let's go over the rule of qalqala. We went over this in the previous lesson. Rule of qalqala: if any of the letters of qutubu jaddin, qaf, ta, ba, jim, dal has a sakin or jazm, qalqala will be made. Qalqala means to make a bouncing sound. So there are only 5 qalqala letters: qaf, ta, ba, jim, dal. So any of them have a sakin on top, then you have to bounce it. Any other letters besides these 5 letters, we're not allowed to make qalqala on them. So there are only 5 qalqala letters. So let's start with the lesson. Hamza noon zabar an. Hamza noon zabar an. Obviously noon sakin it's not one of the qalqala letters, so you have to make sure you don't bounce the noon. You have to control your tongue at the end. Hamza noon zabar an. Some people they say ana, so make sure you control your tongue on the noon sakin. Hamza noon zabar an. Hamza dal zir id. Hamza dal zir id. So make sure to control the tongue at the end. Don't make qalqala on the dal. Hamza dal zir id. Hamza mim zabar am. Hamza mim zabar am. Hamza noon zir in. Hamza noon zir in. Ba lam zabar bal. Ba lam zabar bal. Ta ba pish tub. Now ba is a qalqala letter, so you have to bounce it, but don't bounce it so aggressively that you end up putting a zabr on top. So again, ta ba pish tub. Ta ba pish tub. Kho dal pish khud. Kho dal pish khud. So kha is a full mouth letter and dal is an empty mouth letter. So you have to blend from a full mouth to an empty mouth letter. So kho dal pish khud, and make sure don't make qalqala on the dal. Kho dal pish khud. Dal ain zabar da. Dal ain zabar da. Pronounce the ain properly. Dal ain zabar da. Now let's say without spelling. An, id, am, in, bal, tub, khud, da. Next row. Dal qaf pish dhuq. So qaf is a qalqala letter, so you have to bounce it. Dal qaf pish dhuq, and dal is empty mouth and qaf is full mouth. So you have to blend from empty mouth to full mouth. Dhuq, dhuq. Now before we go over this, let's go over the rules of raw. Rules of raw. Raw with a zabar or pesh, or raw sakin with a zabar or pesh before it will be read with a full mouth. So when a raw has a zabar, it will be read with a full mouth. When a raw has a pesh, it will be read with a full mouth. And when a raw sakin with a zabar before it, for example, right here, see this raw sakin before there's a zabar, so it will be read with a full mouth. Or a raw sakin with a pesh before it, right here, Ra sakin with a pesh before it, it'll be read with a full mouth. Okay. Ra with a zer or ra sakin with a zer before it will be read with an empty mouth. So when there's a ra with a zer, it'll be read with an empty mouth. Waturi, waturi. Or ra sakin with a zer before it. For example, right here, ra sakin with a zer before it, it'll be read with an empty mouth. So anzirhum, anzir, anzirhum. So you have to say very lightly, gently. Make sure you don't roll the tongue when you pronounce the ra. So again, anzirhum. Now you must be wondering, why am I making a nasal sound on a nun sakin? Inshallah, in the exercise of lesson 17, we'll go over that rule, the rule of ikhfa, where you have to make a nasal sound. But for now, just remember about ra sakin, when there's a zer before it, you have to pronounce it very lightly with the empty mouth. Anzirhum, anzirhum. So let's go back to the lesson. Thal, ra, zabr, dhar. So ra sakin with a zabr before it, you have to pronounce it with the full mouth. So dhal's empty mouth and ra is full mouth. So you have to blend it from empty mouth to full mouth. So dhal, ra, zabr, dhar. Dhal, ra, zabr, dhar. Nun, ya, zirni. Dharni, dharni. Za, dal, zir, zid. So dal is a qalqala letter, so you have to bounce it. Za, dal, zir, zid. Nun, ya, zirni, zidni. Sin, lam, zabr, sal. Sin, lam, zabr, sal. Fa, zabr, fa. Sad, ra, bish, sur. So sad is a full mouth. And a ra sakin with the pesh before it will be read with a full mouth. So fasur, fasur, fasur. Ain nun zabr an. Ain dal zir id. Qalqala letter. Ain dal zir id. So without spelling. Dhuq, dharni. Remember, empty mouth to full mouth. Ra sakin with the zabr before it, full mouth. ذرني ذرني زدني زدني سل سل فصر. Make sure pronounce the saw with the full mouth, and ra sakin with the pesh before it, full mouth. فصر فصر عن عن عد عد. واو زبر و. عين ظا زر عظ. So dha is a full mouth. Ain is an empty mouth letter, and dha is a full mouth letter. So you have to blend it from empty mouth to full mouth. Wa'idh. So you have to twist it a little bit. Wa'idh. Wa'idh. Qaf, dal, zabr, qad. So qaf is a full mouth letter, and dal is an empty mouth. So you have to blend it from full mouth to empty mouth, and dal you have to bounce it. Qad. Qaf, dal, zabr, qad. Qaf, lam, pish, qul. Qaf, lam, pish, qul. Qaf is the full mouth letter. Qaf, mim, pish, qum. Qaf, mim, pish, qum. Many people, when they pronounce this word, they don't pronounce the qaf with the full mouth. So make sure you pronounce it with the full mouth. Qaf, mim, pish, qum. Kaf, mim, zabr, kam. So kaf is empty mouth. Kaf, mim, zabr, kam. So again, qum, kam. So there has to be a difference between a qaf and a kaf. Qum, kam. Lam, zabr, la. Kaf, mim, pish, kum. Lakum. Kaf, nun, pish, kun. Kaf, lam, pish, kul. Without spelling. Wa'idh. Wa'idh. Make sure blend from empty mouth to full mouth, and pronounce the ayn properly. Wa'idh. So twist it. Wa'idh. Qad. Qad. Qul. Qul. Qum. Qum. Kam. Qum. Kam. Lakum. kun, kul. Lam mim zabar lam, lam nun zabar lan, mim nun zabar man, mim nun zer min, ha ba zabar hab, that's a qalqala letter, ha ba zabar hab, lam ya zer li. For 1 second, remember it's open letter, ya sakin with the zer before it, stretch it for about 1 alif. Lam ya zer li. Fa zabar fa, ha lam zabar hal, fahal, fahal. Lam zabar la, ha mim pesh hum, lahum, lahum. Without spelling, lam, lan, man, min, hab, li, fahal, lahum. So those letters which are not qalqala letters, make sure you don't bounce in, especially these four right here. Lam, lan, man, min.